The paradigm shift. 4,000 years ago, priests in Babylon climbed their temple towers at night and watched 7 lights move across the sky. That habit of counting to 7 became the week you're still living by today. Stop trying to manage your time and start questioning who owns it. This 7-day cycle feels like a law of nature. It isn't. It's older than almost anything else you own, and it was repurposed, centuries later, to keep a machine running. Today, we are taking the calendar apart to see what's actually inside it. The deadline reality check. The Babylonians built the week to track gods in the sky. The Romans ran their empire on an 8-day market cycle instead. Somewhere between an ancient priesthood and a Victorian factory floor, your calendar got hijacked. Every hour you planned today was shaped by that hijacking. It's not just a calendar. It's a leftover piece of ancient and industrial machinery, and you're still living inside it. Let's open it up. The illusion of natural time. For most of human history, time didn't come in identical boxes. It came from the sky. People tracked moons, not months. The moon takes about 29.5 days to cycle, which is why nearly every early calendar system wobbled, trying to make lunar months fit tidy weeks. The Egyptians split time into 10-day blocks. The Babylonians settled on 7, but for a reason that had nothing to do with productivity. They could see 7 moving lights in the sky, the sun, the moon, and 5 planets, and built a sacred number around it. Rome didn't even use a 7-day week for most of its history. It ran on an 8-day market cycle called the Nundine, 7 working days. Then a market day when farmers came in from the countryside to sell grain and cattle, courts closed, and city business paused. The Romans didn't even name these days like we do. They labeled them with letters, because the cycle didn't line up evenly with their calendar year anyway. That system lasted for centuries. It was Emperor Constantine, in 321 CE, who officially replaced it with the 7-day week we still use. And it stuck. Not because it matched any biological rhythm, but because an empire, and later a global religion, enforced it. So the natural week you feel guilty for resisting was never natural. It was astrology, politics, and religious authority, stacked on top of each other, then frozen in place. The industrial birth of the modern workweek. The week is old, but the workweek in 5 or 6 identical shifts, a fixed clock-in, a countable day off, is much younger, and its origin is on the record. Britain's Factory Acts didn't emerge from thin air. In 1847, after nearly 15 years of campaigning by reformers like Lord Ashley, Parliament passed the 10 Hours Act, capping the workday for women and children in textile mills. Mill owners immediately found loopholes, splitting shifts so machines never stopped, even if no single worker exceeded the legal hours. So in 1850, Parliament closed the gap. Fixed start and end times, a hard stop at 2 p.m. on Saturdays. That single clause, work ends at 2 on Saturday, is one of the direct ancestors of the modern weekend. Notice what these laws were actually doing. They weren't handing workers freedom. They were standardizing: 1, the machine could extract labor, because a completely exhausted workforce was bad for output. 2, the regulated break wasn't generosity, it was maintenance. And once labor could be measured in fixed blocks, time itself became something to buy, sell, and account for. That accounting logic, hours as units, days as inventory, is the direct parent of the calendar grid on your phone right now. The modern cost. What the grid does to a brain. Open a modern calendar app and you'll notice something the 1850 factory floor didn't have. Empty space that looks like a problem. A blank block reads as wasted time, so we fill it. Meeting, task, reminder, until the day is fully accounted for, the same instinct that made an idle machine feel like a loss to a mill owner. This isn't just a metaphor. Decision fatigue is a documented phenomenon. Every scheduling choice, every does this go here or there, draws down the same limited pool of mental energy, and by the end of a densely blocked day, judgment measurably degrades. Color coding and progress bars can make a full calendar feel like an achievement, even when the underlying cognitive load, constant context switching between unrelated tasks, is what's actually driving the exhaustion. And notifications compound it. Each ping is a small alert signal, priming the body's stress response before you've even read what it says. A calendar that pings you all day isn't neutral scheduling software. It's a low-grade, near-constant activation cycle, one your attention pays for whether or not any single task is demanding. Biology doesn't punch a clock. Here's the deeper mismatch. Your body doesn't run on a synchronized grid. It runs on a circadian rhythm, an internal clock, roughly 24 hours long, that governs when you're naturally alert and when you're naturally not. But that clock isn't identical from person to person. Sleep researchers have shown chronotype, whether someone is naturally an early riser or a late-night thinker, is a real, largely biological trait, not a discipline problem. A standard 9 to 5 was never built around that variation. It was built around the factory shift, then inherited by the office, then inherited by the calendar app. 3 systems in a row optimized for synchronization, not for individual biology. Large-scale surveys have repeatedly linked chronic mismatch between someone's natural rhythm and their required schedule, a condition researchers call social jet lag, to elevated fatigue and long-term health strain. The rigid schedule doesn't just feel inconvenient for non-morning people. It's working against a documented biological difference, reclaiming temporal autonomy. None of this means throwing out calendars entirely. Coordination has to happen somehow. But you can stop treating the grid as neutral and start treating it as a tool you're allowed to renegotiate. A few concrete moves. Notice your own energy pattern for a week before you schedule around someone else's. Batch similar tasks instead of letting the calendar chop your attention into fragments. Push real communication toward async, a message that waits for you instead of a meeting that doesn't. And build in blocks that are deliberately unscheduled, not as a reward, but as the default, because a completely full calendar isn't the sign of a well-run day. Historically, it's a sign of a system built to extract, not to restore. Your calendar was built by people solving a very different problem than yours. You're allowed to solve for something else. The Babylonians looked at the sky and built a week to honor it. Somewhere along the way, we stopped looking up and started looking at a screen instead. The week isn't sacred. It isn't even natural. It's just the oldest piece of software humans ever agreed to run, 4,000 years old, and still installed on your phone. And like any software, it's allowed to be updated. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our future documentaries. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.